If you look at my back, this is a beautiful range of hills. But if you look closely into that hills, you will find a beautiful episode going on. I'm pretty sure you wouldn't be able to see from there, so I'm here to help you and guide you through. From what I can see is, a Buddha is walking along a hill. At that time, he sees a shepherd on a very, sunny day. He goes up to the shepherd and asks, "Where are you going?" And the shepherd said, "I'm going towards the uphill." Then Buddha remained silent. Then among the flock of goats he was grazing, he noticed a goat which was always limping and falling behind the group. So Buddha went up to the shepherd again and asked, "Shall I carry this goat on my shoulders and take him all the way up to that hill and leave him there for a good grazing?" What did the shepherd say? "Yeah, of course, why not?" As if he didn't even cared about the goat to get missing. So after a while, Buddha did what he said. The shepherd noticed that when Buddha was walking, all the limping goats, all the good goats, among the community were start following the Buddha. The shepherd was puzzled for a moment, then eventually he was forced to follow. This is a very simple episode, but if you notice, there is something a lot going on. This whole episode narrates how beautifully a spiritual driven community can work in the place of an ego driven community. Let us analyze the characters first in the story. Here comes the enlightened man, who represents the fruitfulness of spiritual teachings, while the shepherd represented the common people among society, and our favorite, the limping goat, represented the individuals with problems and disabilities. A peculiar question arises, right? Why did the enlightened man or Buddha have pity on the goat while the shepherd did not? Logically, it was the shepherd who took care of the goat. The answer is perspective. There was a difference in perspective. The perspective of the shepherd was filled with ignorance and absent-mindedness, while the perspective of Buddha was filled with kindness and compassion. And what's the reason behind the perspective difference? We humans are naturally inclined towards affection and compassion. But spirituality enhances these qualities to a level or a degree where it becomes purely something beautiful called selflessness. And again comes the question, how did Buddha or the enlightened man attain selflessness? Through spiritual practice. When I say the word spiritual practice, I'm sure you would get thousands of interpretation, definitions, and images going around your brain. But to be peculiar, there is one idea, basic idea, for all the definitions and interpretations. That is, when you extend yourself to others, you make a profound positive impact in their lives while simultaneously enriching your soul. And how hard is spiritual practice? To be honest, kindness itself is a simple spiritual practice. That's how simple it is. Then, what I narrated this long looks like a utopian dream, but in practical sense, you can't apply it. Why? Why can't we apply in a society? Actually, where does a society fail in first place? Due to complexities. Complexities, and where do we fail as a society? We humans are unique individuals who instinctively crave for social interaction and a community. Once it was for survival and pleasure. Later, as time evolved, these community expanded and evolved into complex systems where beliefs, emotions, and principles became primary, to which we had to adhere. And what is the basic of complexities? Evolution of selfishness. Where does it evolve it? analyze ourselves. Nowadays, we tend to be busy in our own world in great depths that we don't check on others unless our kitchens are out of salt or carrots. You know, you always sense a selfish motive behind every meeting or every meet with others. This brings a basic distance and hypocrisy between people. And it's pretty prevalent among this generation that we don't mingle with anyone or any other. We tend to be in our own walls, creating our own walls, basically, and developing social anxiety rather leading to depression. And next comes the another problem statement. I'd like to say this as an evolutionary trait rather than a problem statement. Reacting rather than responding. Remember, every community has its own conflicts and issues. What makes the difference is how people tend to act towards it. How do we act most of the time? We tend to react to them rather than responding, which creates a confusion in the community. The result, the conflict is never solved, but of course it's talked about, it's overlooked and moved upon. And there are extreme cases where people tend to live with the problems rather than solving the problem. They get usual about it. And in the present day world, I said conflicts, right? Conflicts arise from threats. Any threat involving your self-esteem, your self-identity, your self-aspiration is known as psychological threats. And if you want to take anything from this talk, this is the main point. Listen carefully. This threat, psychological threat, is the future of threats. Anymore, it's not going to be about survival threats or physical threats. It's about psychological threats. And what are the present day instinctive reaction we use to counterattack them? Perfectionism, fear of failure, and the need to control and need to please. I'd like to introduce two of my most important persons in my PPT. They are influencing us from the time of evolution till date. Want to know who that is? The prefrontal cortex, also known as the hero of the brain. He is responsible for executive functioning and problem solving. On how Disha ma'am scores 6 or 4 depends on prefrontal cortex decision. To be honest, he plays a huge role when your brain is really trained. But here comes the villain. The amygdala, also known as the primitive brain. We all have heard the sentence, right? The term, right? Flight or fight arise from this. Whenever our brains is under stressful conditions, amygdala tends to hijack it and plays its part. Result, bad decisions, stressful environments, not for us, also for the future building, upcoming future generations to go with. Space and individual consideration. A community truly progresses only when the individuals of the community's problems, conflicts, issues, disabilities, beliefs, emotions, principles are accepted, solved, non-judged and non-discriminated in a community without causing any kind of disturbance to the harmony of the community. But we are very much specialized in judging others. We tend to box people. We tend to define people. We tend to ignore the fact that humans are unique individuals. We tend to completely ignore that fact and we tend to box people, label them. Just feel how you will feel if in your own family you feel vulnerable and judged. That's how people feel. And in recent days, we have seen number of souls which have departed from our society just because they weren't accepted by the society. That's what their crime was, just because they weren't accepted by the society. We failed as humans in that point. Society has failed at that point. Remember, acceptance is simply love in practice. If you love, you accept. If you don't love, or if you lack love, you judge. Then, when I say the word spirituality, the society or most of the time I tend to assume it as a nonsensical, abstract concept which is only appealing or attractive to adolescent dreamers and people who are, you can take examples, people who are unemployed, people who are weak-minded, people who are secluded from the society, people who prefer seclusion. In some extreme cases, the word spirituality is seen as a threat to people with good livelihood and prosperity. This shows how much we are attached to our material pursuits. Our idea is not going against material pursuits or material success. It's pretty much needed in the present day world. But our idea is going against the attachment to material pursuits after you achieve them. Even though we all come from different backgrounds, different cultures, different languages, especially in Saram, different upbringing, we all have been taught the same thing, same philosophy. We are old generation, and we all have realized this, that for don't hold grudges in your heart. With time, everything is temporary. Remember that. Fine. I've been bombarding you all with so much, philosophy, everything. Just deep it, okay? Let's relax. And I want to ask, how was your attendance? My attendance in the PP is very worse. So still I have come here because of this opportunity. My friends have attended after the PPS labs. Selfish people. Okay, let us come to the. As I'm an engineer, it's my responsibility to bring out the problem statements. Also, to bring out the solution and at least the idea towards solution. What is the solution for all the problems I said? Spirituality. Is spirituality really a guide to humanity? I say yes. I agree with that. Because the history has witnessed the amount of or number of spiritual teachings which have, revolutionized humans' nature and behavior in last generations. Everyone remembers the 7th or 8th standard social book, right? We have studied the pre-British era, where spiritual movements in India, broke up in every certain regions. Those are all are the witness for this. Then, I'm pretty sure you would be surprised as much as I was surprised when I was doing the background research for this topic. Neurotheology. This shows how science approves of spirituality. Neurotheology is a term which explains how spiritual activities or implications can have on your brain and how it can respond and how it conditions according to the environment. Various cultures have reported the same thing. Even the various cultures have various spiritual paths. They all come at a point, unite at a point, and share the same experience. Connection with the transcendental oneness. Like, whoa, Shazib, you're talking about science. How does science say? Wait. Maybe what they are trying to say is, in certain states, brain tends to accumulate an overwhelming feeling of nobility, generosity, and fearlessness, in some cases selflessness, which makes them humble, light-weighted, uplifted feeling. How is that possible? It is studied that there is tiny fluctuation in the blood flow of the brain, and there is a secretion of a beautiful chemical called dopamine in a very long term. Effects on individual. What if a person really follows spirituality perfectly? It does not mean he should go perfectly. He can at least try to march through that journey towards enlightenment or spiritual path. What does he attain? He attains self-awareness. What do you mean by self-awareness? The individual is blessed with blessed with the vision towards the future consequences due to his present day actions. Then, sense of purpose. The term itself is pretty explanatory. Accepting the differences. When you accept differences by embracing spiritual teachings, an individual contributes to an harmonious community where inherent dignity and the worth of every individual is celebrated and upheld. We accept the difference. We understand the emotions and feelings of others, and we celebrate that. Then comes answer to existential questions. In history, we have witnessed a number of souls which have got enlightened just because they answered the questions such as, what is suffering? What is life? Why am I born? What is my purpose on this planet? What am I doing? Is my whole life about internal assignments, attendance, everything? Or just about like what is my purpose on getting a human form? What is my purpose? That's what answers to existential questions are. Then, fine. We all are here. I've been talking about society. How does spirituality affect in a societal level? Remember, I want to share a beautiful quote here with you all. Sages call it by various names. It is one sun which reflects in all pond. It is one water which slakes the thirst of all, and it is one air which sustains all life. Systems of faith may be different, but the hope is one. Let's look at how spirituality affects in a societal level. A community's metaphysical beliefs is what makes drastic change in the livelihood and lives of people in the community. I'm pretty sure you wouldn't able to recognize that guy. He's the famous actor from Bollywood, in the Bollywood industry, Dev Anand sir. Just a fact I wanted to share. How does application work? I'm an engineer, so I have to research on how application works. And it works pretty well, I can say, because the number of kingdoms which have prospered in history have been witness of how spirituality has worked in societal level. In ancient India, it was a long-term practice of involving spiritual leaders in discussions, debates, or in the courtroom in the presence of rulers on public. There used to be constant debates, discussion, conflicts. Yes, you heard it right, conflicts and confusions among spiritual leaders or individuals, not just on religious texts. You will be surprised to know that it was mostly about medicine, law, architecture, military, and civil matters. If you look closely, these discussions always ended up with fruitful opinions which were later implemented as laws for the welfare of the people in the kingdom. Why involve spiritual leaders in the first place? Decision making. Education is the first philosophy, is the first step towards spirituality. But in process, the people who follow the path of spirituality tend to accumulate lot of experience that they convert them into lessons, that into wisdomful thoughts, which can be later proved as welfare for the people in the society. Remember, learning. Yes, spirituality is an aspect of humanity, but it promotes education as much as any other aspect. Education and learning is the first and foremost principle or philosophy in the spirituality. To be honest, learning is considered something to be higher or equal to nobility, royalty, and always connected or associated with the divine. Yes, we are all humans. We are all people who are naturally inclined towards concern and compassion. If not, wouldn't the polar bear and penguins be standing for themselves and raise voice for global warming? No. We take it as a personal responsibility to stand up not only for our species, also for the species which inhabit Earth and beyond. Remember, even though we come from different backgrounds, different culture, different languages, different places, different upbringing, we all share the same XYZ dimensional plane. And I just want to share a very important point. All streams of spiritual path dissolve in a mighty ocean called humanity. With that, thanks for bearing with me. This is Shazibsha Younes.